Now, we all live with different sort of experiences of fear based on our genetics, our upbringing, our experiences, our privilege. We might not experience a lot of fear in our lives, or we might have periods of fear. For me, my threat level has been sort of permanently set on high. So it's something that I have walked with fear my whole life. And we've spent so much time together. It sometimes feels like fear is my best friend. It's there for big events like job interviews, but also just as likely to be there hanging out over lunch. Now, fear isn't always a good friend. Life has felt like those track and field event hurdles, in that every time you gain some momentum, you have to leap over an obstacle. And for my hurdle track event life, fear enjoyed adding in extra hurdles, so that even before I could get to the actual obstacle, there would be 2 or 3 more in the way. Fear, anxiety, worry, panic, self-doubt, you name it, I felt it. And having not learned how to regulate my emotions as a child, they all hit hard. And when I was growing up in the 70s, the lesson for fear was pretty much suck it up. Fear was for cowards and life for the brave. Fear was to be conquered, to be overcome, pushed aside. There are a lot of really aggressive metaphors about fear. You have to fight your fear or you won't succeed. And I am not good at fighting. And I would try and resist my fear and push past it, but fear just kept throwing up those hurdles for me to fall over. And I fell over a lot. As I got older, I began to hear the more nuanced approaches to fear and courage. Brave people feel fear but act anyway. That we must face our fear and do all those things that we fear. Now, I am not convinced that falling out of a plane and skydiving is a fear worth facing. The most common phrases I hear are, fear is merely false evidence appearing real, and there is nothing to fear but fear itself. And I have to say, I do not like those statements. Both presume that our fears are meaningless, baseless tricks of our mind. And I think people in horror films must think that fear is merely false evidence. Because why? Why do they persist in going down alone into a basement of an abandoned house late at night? Fear is actually a friend with something important to tell us. Like, always carry 2 flashlights if you're going to go into a basement in an abandoned house late at night, because one of them is going to fail. So fear is a friend with something to tell us. For many women, for people of color, for the queer community, for those who struggle financially, for the disabled, for those with a mental illness, for anyone who is different from the mainstream norm, life is filled with risky situations, and fear helps keep people safe. For a young Black man dealing with the police, there is a real risk of harm. For a trans person to come out, there is a real risk of rejection from those they love. For a woman of color to complain about an issue of work, there is a real risk of being labeled a troublemaker and having your career path ended. Fear helps those who are different, those who have less power in a situation. It helps them judge the level of risk in an interaction. Sometimes it's worth listening to the fear. Sometimes risk is just too high. Fear is just another one of our emotions with something to tell us. There's a saying in Tibetan Buddhism, embrace your 10,000 horrible demons and your 10,000 beautiful demons. And I think in Unitarian Universalist terms, that's saying all of our emotions are acceptable, even the difficult ones. Embrace your demons. Unitarian Universalism calls us to embrace our full humanity, which includes fear and anger and envy and sorrow and regret, as well as joy, peace, love, and all the good stuff. All of us matters. We are whole and holy just as we are, full of all of these feelings. Our cultural norms tend to tell us to be ashamed of fear, to be afraid of fear, to see it as small-minded and small-spirited. Only the weak-minded give in to fear. So that we learn when we feel fear, we believe we are all of that too, small and mean and weak. And that only adds the shame to the fear. I was grateful to find the chalice and be reminded over and over again that we each have inherent worth, even when we're in the midst of a panicky breakdown, even when we're beset by fear and unable to act. It's okay to feel fear. In fact, we need to feel our fear. It's just part of the whole being human deal. How do you respond when you feel afraid? Can you embrace your fears? American Buddhist teacher Sharon Salzberg says that we need to learn how to be afraid, how to sit and accommodate that feeling and not run from it, and also not be driven by it. Because when we're driven by it, we will do anything to avoid it. We will do things that are quite self-destructive or destructive to others. We will surrender good judgment. If only we could learn to sit quietly with our fear and surround it with awareness and love. We can learn to befriend our fear. So fear is our internal alarm system. It warns us when we're entering risky territory, whether that's physical danger or spiritual vulnerability. Fear might show up when we learn a new skill or sport, when we create a work of art and share it with others, or when we tell someone how we truly feel. Fear is reminding us that we are vulnerable beings. It wants to protect us. And so it's sounding that warning, danger ahead. And all of our cultural messages says that fear then is just a problem to be managed. And those messages made me feel like I was the problem to be managed. After all, fear was my constant companion. And as I said, my fear setting is like this hypersensitive smoke alarm in the kitchen. I think most of us have had one of those in our lives at some point, where the alarm goes off when all you do is open the oven door. And some heat wafts out and the thing goes off. As you know, smoke alarms are loud. That ding, 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 that just goes on and echoes in your head even after it is over. It is impossible to feel this fear and keep on acting because the ding, ding, ding is just too loud. So if anyone needed to befriend fear, it was me. And I'm so grateful for the gift of this chalice community, the gift of Unitarian Universalism, reminding me that all of our emotions are acceptable, reminding me that there's a kinder way of being in this world. So instead of berating myself for being afraid, trying to ignore that smoke alarm going off constantly in my head and just act anyways, I learned how to just sit and feel, to turn towards fear with curiosity and compassion. Artist Meera Lee Patel says that fear is a friend and it's here to support you. It requires us to sit with it, listen to it, and try our best to understand it. And she actually wrote a book called My Friend Fear, which I didn't know when I started this service. And when fear is alarming, doing that ding, 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 it's exaggerating. It's like the loud person at the party telling the tallest of tales. It's trying to get my attention by insisting the house is on fire. But the more I was able to accept the sensations of fear, to just feel fear, the quieter the alarm bells got, the shorter the loudness lasted, the more the feelings softened. And for myself, I found meditation techniques like checking in with my body, noting where the feelings and sensations were located helped. Naming all of the swirling emotions I get overwhelmed by helps. Breathing meditations help, that slow in and out breath, held and released. And talking to a friend, a human friend, helps too. What techniques work for you when you're struggling in fear? Takes time, and that smoke alarm still goes off when there's just a bit of heat sometimes, but more often I can view fear as a friend walking beside me. A somewhat difficult friend, but one that just wants to help. When fear quiets down a little, it's really just pointing out the potholes in the road I want to travel. It's warning me where to watch my step. My friend fear is telling me what matters to me. It's reminding me that I'm a vulnerable, feeling, physical being, and life is risky. And it helps me see where I need to take extra care, where I need to manage a risk. Am I afraid to take on a new challenge? Well, is that because I'm afraid it might mess up a relationship that I cherish? Or is it because I struggle with failure and letting people down? When I can figure out where the fear is pointing, then I can respond. Now, Miralee Patel notes that when the foundations of our lives shift in some way, when a foundation stone becomes displaced, fear rushes in to fill the vacancy. So when a relationship ends or a job shift, when things shift, there's a hole. And fear replaces that sense of security with anxiety. It sees the gap and tries to help like a well-meaning friend. And so with the announcement of my leaving, the foundations of UCM are shifting. Congregations can mark their history through the tenure of ministers, and we're coming to the end of the Reverend Fiona era. Now I'm gonna cry. We have been good together. We've created many meaningful experiences over the years, and we faced challenges with humor and hope. Now that our time together is ending, it's natural and normal that fear is going to join us. I will say my fear is getting a little loud, ding, 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 yelling that I'm making a huge mistake. And yet I know I am not. I'm going towards good things, even as it means I leave this meaningful and wonderful ministry. And you're going towards good things too. You've already begun the conversation around congregational renewal, seeking to reimagine what a chalice community might look like in this challenging age. And my leaving allows you to embrace this path wholeheartedly, to experiment and to seek an innovative minister ready to work together on new ways of being this beautiful spiritual community together. And my hope is that you don't let fear and anxiety ring the alarm bell, pushing you towards quick decisions and frantic actions just to make it stop. Befriend fear until it stops yelling and just listen. Let it be beside you, guiding you, showing you what matters most. What is fear telling you to hold on to? What is fear telling you you're afraid to lose? And once you understand what really matters most about this community, it will be clear what you need to begin the next fabulous era. American poet William Stafford says, "What you fear will not go away. It will take you into yourself and bless you and keep you. That's the world, and we all live there." That's the world, and we all live there with fear by our side. In the days to come, may we make friends with fear. May we sit and listen to its very awkward sharing of wisdom. And may that fear guide us towards new and good possibilities. So say we all.